Hello wine people, welcome to Thirsty and Wise, where we simplify wine. My name is Petar and I'm a certified WSET wine and spirit educator. This is video number 8 in a series of videos for WSET Level 1 in Wines course and exam. In this video, I will explain WSET Level 1 in Wines systematic approach to tasting, and I will explain the principles of food and wine pairing. On Thirsty and Wise YouTube channel, we're building a community of wine people that want to learn about wine with understanding. And we also organize WSET classes and exams online and in person. So if you're interested to learn about wine with understanding, and if you want to get certified, you're in the right place. Please reach out and we will create a wine program that suits your needs. And let's start this video. Okay, wine people, this is video number 8 in the WSET Level 1 in Wines video series. This is going to be an interesting video because I will be explaining the WSET Level 1 in Wines SAT, Systematic Approach to Tasting. I will be talking about food and wine pairing interactions. And this video is a little bit different than previous ones because you can actually have wines in front of you, have food in front of you, and do the practice with the tasting, and do the practice with the same wines, do the food and wine pairing exercise. So my recommendation would be for this video for you just to watch the video as it is, see what is it about, and then if it's interesting enough for you, you can actually come back with the wines and food and follow along with the wine and food. All right, so let's go into the video and let me explain how everything is going to work. So in this video, like I said, I will explain the WSET Level 1 in Wine Systematic Approach to Tasting. I'll explain you what you need in order to properly prepare for a wine tasting, what wines you will need, what food you will need. I will explain the food and wine pairing interactions, and on the end, we will test how much you remembered with the 10 multiple choice questions, and I will leave you with the 2 home exercises for you to do and think about. Okay, so let's start. So preparing for the tasting wine, drinking wine is totally different. When you're drinking wine, you're in an environment where you're relaxed, you're enjoying the wine and the company and the environment, but you're not really focusing on the wine. The wine is not the main part. When you're doing a wine tasting, you want to focus on that wine. You really want to understand how the wine looks like, how the wine smells, how it tastes, and what does that all mean. So in order to do that properly, you need to have an environment with a good light. Best is if you have natural light with no strong odors to interfere with the smell of the wine. You want to have a white background so you can clearly see the color of the wine. You want to have wine glasses. Ideally, I'll show you, we're going to taste 6 wines. Ideally, if you have 6 same glasses, if not, you should have at least 2 glasses of the same size. I would recommend a white wine glass, so a smaller wine glass. Have a clean palate, so you know anything that you ate before doesn't mix with the flavors of the wine. Have water so you can cleanse your palate between the wines, and then have the food for the food and wine pairing. The wines that I recommend for you to have for this calibration, we call it calibration because the point is now for me to explain you the characteristics of these wines, and for you to, you know, adjust your palate. You should consider your palate as a scale. So you're adjusting your palate, your scale of what means high, low, red, black, ripe, fresh. Every wine has a purpose in the tasting to show you different characteristic of in wines. So for example, and these are not, I'm not giving you the exact producer, or you know, the point is for you to have the right style of wine. So I'll explain what that means. So wine number 1, Pinot Grigio, should show you the wine should be simple, fruity, and high in acidity. Something from northern Italy, from a cool climate, 5 to 10 euros. Sauvignon Blanc, ideally from New Zealand, something between 10 and 15 euros. Wine that will be high in acidity and pronounced in aromas, aromatic grape variety. You should have an off-dry Riesling, ideally from Germany, something between 10 and 15 euros or dollars. It will be high in acidity and it will have a touch of sweetness. Oak Chardonnay will be a wine that is totally different than the first three wines. First three wines should be, or most probably are going to come from a cool climate. So Pinot Grigio, North Italy, Sauvignon Blanc, Marlborough, New Zealand, off-dry Riesling from Germany. Oaked Chardonnay should come from a warm climate, south of France, Australia, Chile, somewhere that is warm, that will have ripe fruit, probably high alcohol, and that it will age in oak. Pinot Noir should be so with the red wines, with the Pinot Noir and Shiraz. Shiraz can also be a Cabernet. So either ideally Shiraz or a Cabernet. I want to show you the difference between red fruit in a Pinot Noir and a black fruit in Shiraz or Cabernet. Pinot Noir should be simple, should not be aged in oak, or if it's aged in oak, something that has a little oak influence and that is light in tannin. So Pinot Noir from New Zealand, from Australia, from Chile, maybe. You can go into Burgundy if you want. And then Shiraz or Cabernet Sauvignon should come from Pinot Noir, something between 15 to 20 euros. Shiraz and Cabernet also something between 15 and 20 euros or dollars. So Shiraz Cabernet should come from a warm climate, will have black fruit, should be aged in oak, and will have high tannins. Okay. For the food you will need also, I'm not giving you here food plates. Ideally, they should be isolated flavors. So number one, honey or dried fruit, something like dried fruit or figs, something that is sweet. Salted crackers for saltiness, lemon wedges for acidity, chorizo, sausage for something strong in flavor, bacon or butter for something fatty, and spicy salsa for something hot. It doesn't need to be these foods, but they should be with these characteristics and ideally isolated so the flavors don't match in the same dish. Okay, so there's few things that you can do now with this video. You can either do this at home, or you can do this in a wine bar. If you're doing this at home, you would need to buy these wines, and then I would not recommend you to buy these 6 wines and do everything on your own. Try to have a group of friends that is interested in wine and do this exercise, these 2 exercises in this video in a group, so you can share the cost of wines and the food. The second thing, if you want to do it on your own maybe, or with a group of friends, you can go to a nice wine bar that has a good wine by the glass program, that you can taste wines by the glass by the sample, and you can explain them the food platter that you want for this exercise. If you're going to a wine bar, wine people will understand your request, and I'm sure they will, that they will help you in this. Okay. So first exercise that we're going to do is the level 1 systematic approach to tasting. So if you have 6 glasses, you can pour all these wines a little bit, 50 ml in each glass. If you have only 2 glasses, especially if there's more of you, then I would honestly recommend just going 2 glasses at a time and comparing the wines side by side. That's going to be enough. So for the level 1 tasting, it's quite simple, how the wine looks like. I'll explain you a little bit more than I would generally explain on the level 1. Aroma characteristics and the palate, structure, components, and flavor characteristics. Okay, so let's go one by one, how the wine should be showing in your glass. Wine number 1, Pinot Grigio, should be pale lemon in the glass, meaning that there's not a lot of color in this wine. I'm not going to go into too much details about the color for level 1. It's more, we talk a little bit more about the color when on level 2 and level 3. But just in general, just for you to know, for the color of the wine, with white wines, wines gain color with age, and also aging in oak and ripeness. If the wines are young and coming from a cool climate, the wines will be pale lemon in color. If the wines are coming from a warmer climate, aged in oak, where there's controlled oxidation, but still oxidation, and are older in vintage, they will have more color. They will go more towards gold color. For red wines change color by being purple or ruby when they're young, and going into garnet, which is a transition to brown color and then being brown, and they lose color with age. Okay, so let's go with Pinot Grigio. Pinot Grigio, fresh wine, young vintage, coming from a cool climate. It's pale lemon in color. On the nose, when you swirl, you can smell the wine on its own without swirling the glass, and then, you know, notice the aromas and the intensity of the aromas, and then you can swirl it and see if anything changes dramatically. Pinot Grigio is a neutral grape variety, so you should not expect a lot of intensity in the wine, and the wine should be quite simple, should be light in intensity of the aroma. So intensity of the aroma is how intense the aroma is. So this should be light in intensity and very simple, fresh lemon, green apple, pear on the nose. On the palate, this Pinot Grigio should be dry, should have high acidity. So acidity, the sweetness you detect on the tip of the tongue. Acidity is, you're gonna detect it as a salivation. So your mouth will start salivating if the acidity is high. So this is a natural human mechanism to balance the acidity on your palate. We don't talk about tannin in white wines. Alcohol should be medium, around 12.5%. And the body should feel light on the palate. So dry, high acidity, medium alcohol, light body. This is the Pinot Grigio. Flavors of Pinot Grigio should be the same flavors that we detected on the nose. So fresh, simple, lemon, green pear, green apple. Done. Second wine. Second wine was New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, or a Sauvignon Blanc. But don't go for a cheap one. Sauvignon Blanc is like a Pinot Noir. You know, if you go too cheap, you're not gonna get a good wine. Some wines can be even cheaper, they can taste good. Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir, you should go into that at least 10 to 15 euro range. So Sauvignon Blanc on the color should be pale lemon. Maybe there's some green on the side of the glass. That's usually indication of a very cool climate and maybe earlier harvesting, but anyway. On the nose should be pronounced. So when you swirl, even without swirling the glass, the aromas should be coming out of the glass, and then when you swirl it, should be very easy to recognize Sauvignon Blanc. Aromas like lemon, green apple, green pear, bell pepper for Sauvignon Blanc, very specific. Some stone fruit like peach, apricot, some ripeness there, and some passion fruit. Definitely, if it's coming from New Zealand, most probably it has like passion fruit aromas. On the palate, the wine should be dry, high in acidity, medium alcohol, and medium body. There should be some more structure, more richness, more body than when compared to a simple Pinot Grigio. Let's go to wine number 3. Wine number 3, off-dry German Riesling. On the appearance, pale lemon in color. Aroma intensity should be medium plus to pronounce. There should be aromas of green apple, green pear, lemon, some, if it's a little bit riper Riesling, some peach, apricot, some stone fruit, some white flowers maybe. And there could be also should be a petrol aroma, something very specific for a German Riesling, something that reminds you of gasoline in a good way. On the palate, this wine should show a touch of sweetness. It can be off dry, meaning there's a little bit of sweetness, or maybe even medium dry, where there's more sweetness. The wine should have high acidity. If it's sweet or medium, off dry or medium sweet, should be low in alcohol. So that's actually a good indication when you're looking at the German wine labels. If it's low alcohol, meaning below 11%, definitely it will have touch of sweetness. So low alcohol and light body. Wine number 4, oaked ripe Chardonnay from a warm climate. On the appearance, should be pale or medium gold. Gold because of the ripe fruit of maybe it's an older vintage, and because it was aged in oak. So all this contributes to change of color in white wines. On the aroma, should be pronounced in intensity of ripe fruit, peach, apricot, mango, pineapple, secondary aromas of oak, vanilla, coconut, toast, and if it's an older vintage, maybe some tertiary aromas, maybe some honey, some hay, some dried fruit elements. On the palate, the wine should be dry, should be medium acidity because of the warmer climate, riper fruit, high alcohol, and full body. Don't confuse that white wines cannot be full body. A wine that is coming from a warm climate has high alcohol, ripe flavors, intensity, pronounced intensity, aged in oak, all characteristics of a full body white wine. Aromas and flavors should match for all the wines as they are on the nose. So this wine should have peach, apricot, pineapple, mango, vanilla, toast, cedar aromas. Red wines, Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir should be pale or medium ruby in color. If it's a young wine, it should be a young, fresh Pinot Noir. If you compare side by side, for example, Pinot Noir and Cabernet or Shiraz, you should see that Pinot Noir is much paler in color. It has much less color, where Cabernet Sauvignon should be deep and opaque. Opaque is a term describing a wine that you cannot see through. It's almost black-like. The color goes all the way to the rim of the glass. Okay. For the aromas of Pinot Noir, a good Pinot Noir always has medium plus to pronounce aromas of fresh aromas like cherries, cranberries, raspberries, and if it's not aged, that's it. If the wine was aged a little bit in oak, can show a little bit aromas of vanilla or cedar wood. On the palate, the wine should be dry, high acidity, medium to light in tannin, medium in alcohol, and medium to light in body. On the flavor side, it should confirm the flavors as on the nose, and usually on the palate you can actually detect maybe some aromas that you didn't find on the nose. That's a case with me. I always find more flavors in the wine when I actually taste it. Then Cabernet or Shiraz, it should be deep in color, so deep purple or deep ruby. If it's a little older vintage, there should be a little touch of browning, which is a garnet color. On the nose should be medium plus to pronounce in intensity, aromas of, so this is when I said compare the color of the wine, also compare how red fruit smells like in a Pinot Noir and how black fruit smells like in Shiraz or Cabernet. Also smell the simplicity of the Pinot Noir, that you should have a simple Pinot Noir. There's also complex Pinot Noirs, but this one should be simple for this exercise. And then a complex Pinot Noir, complex Cabernet or Shiraz that has secondary and possibly tertiary aromas. On the palate, this wine should be dry, medium plus to high in acidity and tannin, high alcohol, and full body. So when you taste this wine, they should feel mouth-filling on your palate. And same flavors as on the nose. So black fruit, black cherry, blackberry, black currant, cassis. If we're tasting a Cabernet, there should be a bell pepper element to it. If we're tasting a Shiraz, a cooler climate Shiraz would taste more peppery, like black pepper, like spice. And if it's a Shiraz from Australia, it would taste more like sweet candy, licorice-like. Aromas of oak, and then some tertiary elements like dried black fruit, like earth, like decayed leaves. So that's for the exercise for the wine. So if you have these 6 wines in front of you, this would be a great exercise basically with 6 wines to taste, you know, basically almost all characteristics that you can find in a wine. Food and wine pairing interactions. So food and wine pairing is a great thing that you can enjoy in the world because it's interactions of flavors of wine and food. And the point of food and wine pairing, instead of just drinking wine on its own and eating food on its own, is the combination of flavors of wine and food together. And the idea is that if you combine the food well, if you follow some, not rules, but, you know, guidelines, suggestions, you can make your food and wine pairing experience more enjoyable. I know there's a lot of people that saying that, you know, food and wine pairing is a hoax, this and that, but there, you know, I believe that food and wine pairing doesn't have to be exaggerated. You don't have to be a doctor in order to do food and wine pairing properly. There's just few things that you can follow and experiment, and then, you know, judge things on its own, or, you know, have your opinion, create your opinion on it. So food and wine pairing is also very subjective. People enjoy different flavors in food and wine, so that's very important when you're doing food and wine pairing for yourself, or you're a server, a sommelier, somebody that is recommending food and wine. You should understand that the first thing, the most important thing about, before even making any suggestion, is understanding person's preference. Understand what they like, what they don't like, and then use your knowledge to either suggest, or if you're doing this for yourself, understand your palate, what you like, what you don't like, and then use your knowledge to buy the food and the wine that you will enjoy. All right, so saying all that, there is few guidelines that you can follow and have in your consideration when doing food and wine pairing, and it will help you a lot to understand the food and wine pairing. And if you know this, you can make endless amount of combinations and experimentations and see what happens. That's the whole joy of this food and wine pairing. So we have some flavors that are more challenging to pair, not impossible, but more challenging to pair with wine. And then there's flavors in food that pairs beautifully, very easily with wine, and make the wine, you know, taste even better. And then there's some flavors that are subjective. So flavors combinations in red, sweet and umami, challenging to pair. Salt and acidity, amazing flavors to pair with wine. And then highly flavored food, fatty, oily food, and hot chili is a little bit subjective. It depends person to person if they enjoy that or not. Let's start with the sweet and umami. I'm not talking too much about umami, never, because I don't truly understand it myself. I can maybe identify it in the food, but it's usually always covered with something else. It's not on its own. you would need to buy like a chemical of I even forgot what's the name of it, in order to be in order to taste umami isolated without any salt, acidity, or anything covering up the umami flavor. Monosodium glutamine, I believe it's called. All right, anyway, you need to understand that with sweetness and umami, these flavors, if you have them in the food, they make the wine more drying, more acidic, more bitter, and less fruity. So what you can do with the sweet food, a good recommendation is always have your wine sweeter than your food. With umami, which makes it more drying and bitter, try to have maybe a slightly off dry wine. Don't have a high tannic wine. Don't have a wine that has a lot of oak inside. Saltiness, amazing. Makes the wine more fruity, less acidic, so less drying, less bitter, less acidic, more fruity, and it can even not increase the body of the wine, but can make the wine taste a little bit richer. With acidity in the wine, acidity in the food makes wine less acidic. So a good rule to follow, recommendation to follow, if you're eating something acidic, have a wine that is more acidic than your food. Highly flavorsome food, so something that's high intensity of flavor, try to match intensity with intensity, lightness with lightness. Don't have a wine or food overpower each other. Try to balance the flavors in one and the another. If you're eating something very high intensity of flavor, like for example, if you're eating a bell pepper or something fresh, then have a fresh wine. Have a light, fresh flavors in your wine. If you're eating something that is heavily cooked, roasted, grilled, then you should have flavors in the wine that are similar to that intensity. Something like a high Cabernet, full body Cabernet Sauvignon that was aged in oak and has rich, robust flavors. Fatty, oily food. When you're eating something fatty, oily, that fat covers, creates a layer on your palate that is like a protection layer against acidity and tannin. So actually, when you're eating something fatty, oily, it's very good to have a wine that's either high in acidity or high in tannin, or both, because the food will actually smooth out the tannin and acidity in the wine. Hot, chili, spicy makes the wine more alcoholic. It increases the alcohol of the wine. So a good recommendation, if you don't like that kind of high alcohol on your palate and spiciness, is to have a low alcohol, slightly off dry, slightly sweet wine. Or if you enjoy the burning sensation of alcohol and you like spicy and you don't care about the flavor of the wine, have a Zinfandel with 15% alcohol with spicy food. Go crazy. Yeah, I mean, this is your choice, right? This is what you like, so there's nothing wrong with that. All right. So this is the food and wine pairing interaction. Basically, you can have all these flavors in front of you, your food plate, and then play around. And this is my recommendation, what you can do. Pinot Grigio. So what I would recommend before doing this exercise is, cleanse your palate, try the wine on its own for you to remind yourself how the wine tastes like, and then taste it with food. And also, when you're doing food and wine pairing, you first want to take a bite of the food, to have your palate covered with the flavors of the food, and then try the wine. Don't try to do it in the same time. You don't need to rush. You can have a bite of the food to cover your palate, and then have the wine after that. So with a Pinot Grigio that was simple, high in acidity, maybe lacking a little bit of flavor, maybe acidity was too high. If you're eating something salty, like a salty cracker, the wine should taste maybe a little bit more fruity, lower in acidity, just more pleasurable wine. Also, I don't want you to find this exercise as I am telling you need to feel this. This is an exercise, and you should give it a chance, and you should bring your own conclusion if this works for you and how it works for you. Also, have like a small spreadsheet in front of you with these wines and make a note of how the wine changed. Did the wine change? How did the wine change? What did change in the wine? Is it the fruit? Is it the acidity? Is it the tannin? What changed? Did it change for a better or for a worse? So I would say this Pinot Grigio with something salty will taste better. It will be less acidic, more balanced, a little bit more fruity, and actually taste a little bit richer than on its own. Sauvignon Blanc, which was pronounced in intensity, high in acidity, with a lemon wedge. So high acidity in Sauvignon Blanc is really high. I mean, people that enjoy high acidity, they're going to enjoy that. But maybe for some people that acidity is too high. And then if you're eating something that is acidic, that acidity in the food will balance the acidity in the wine. So the wine will taste less acidic, maybe slight perception of sweetness in the wine, more balanced. Oak Chardonnay, full body white wine that has this also maybe buttery rich texture. I would pair it with the butter. You don't need to eat butter on its own. You can spread it on a piece of bread, maybe have a little bit bacon on it, and then try this wine. Good flavor and flavor intensity. Also the wine will have enough acidity to cut through the richness of the fat. Always good wines have good balance, have good acidity that can go very well with food. Off-dry Riesling, try with something sweet first. You will see that the sweetness in the food will balance out. It will lower the sweetness in the wine. And then you can try it also with something spicy, where you're going to see that the sweetness in the food will lower the spiciness in the food. Pinot Noir, try it with bacon. So a Pinot Noir that was high in acidity, fresh, red fruit, with bacon. The idea is maybe to lower down the acidity a little bit in the wine and to balance out the acidity and for the wine to balance the flavors of the food. With Shiraz is a full-bodied, rich, high in alcohol, high in tannin. So try it with cured meats, like with chorizo, with something more richer. You will see that the food and the wine flavors balance out, and that maybe the richness of the food, the saltiness in the food also mellows down the tannin in the red wine. So this all recommendations so far are positive interactions. If you want to see actually negative interactions of food and wine pairing, how food can actually ruin the flavor of the wine, you can try a Pinot Grigio with honey. You will see that the wine will taste more acidic and more bitter, and you're not going to feel any fruit. A big no-no on weddings, what people do is they eat cake, which is super sweet, with a dry sparkling wine. That wine tastes horrible. So try a negative combination of dry, high acidity Pinot Grigio with honey, and let me know, make a note and write to me how did the wine taste. Shiraz with spicy salsa. So Shiraz that was high in alcohol, if you eat it with something spicy, the spiciness will neutralize the aromas in the wine, and it will bring out the alcohol in the wine. It's like putting kerosene on fire. Kerosene on fire, yeah. All right. So try all these combinations and please let me know how did it work. All right. So before we start the multiple choice questions, let me just give you a homework, what you can do home with these wines. So with the first food and wine pairing interaction, write down the foods on one side and flavors and food on the wines on one side, food on the other, and then try to make notes. How did the wine change for better or for worse? Second exercise that you can do is with the wines that you have, try to think about what you like to eat, and then next to each wine, write down which of the food that you usually eat, which of that food would you pair with which wine, and give a reason why. Which of the combinations are you pairing, combining? Is it acidity with acidity? Is it sweet with sweet? Is it flavor with flavor? And make a note for all the wines and give a recommendation for food that you like to eat. And then the third exercise that I would want you to do is actually those two are the exercises that I want you to do. All right, and please let me know how do they work. Let's go to the questions. So question number 1, what is the most important consideration when pairing food and wine? The price of the wine, the personal preference of the person drinking it, the origin of the wine, the type of glassware used. The correct answer is B, the personal preference of the person that is drinking the wine. That's the most important. How does sweet food typically affect the flavor of the wine? It makes the wine taste more fruity and refreshing. It increases the wine's sweetness and reduces bitterness. It makes the wine taste more drying, bitter, and acidic. It has no effect on wine. So the question was, how does sweet food typically affect flavor of the wine? So it makes the wine taste more, the correct answer is C. It makes the wine taste more drying, bitter, and acidic. That's why we recommend, if you're eating something sweet, have a sweet wine with that. What is the effect of salty food on wine? It makes the wine taste more bitter and acidic. It reduces the bitterness and acidity while enhancing fruitiness. It increases the perception of alcohol in the wine. It overpowers the wine's flavors. The correct answer is B. It reduces the bitterness and acidity while enhancing the fruitiness of the wine. What impact does acidic food have on wine? It makes the wine taste sweeter and more fruity. It reduces the wine's acidity. It enhances wine acidity and making it more refreshing. It masks wine's aromas. So the correct answer is B. It reduces wine's acidity. What is the typical effect of spicy hot chili food on wine? It increases the perception of alcohol and makes the wine seem hotter. It reduces the perception of alcohol in the wine. It enhances the sweetness of the wine. It makes the wine taste more acidic. The correct answer is A. It increases the perception of alcohol and makes the wine taste more hotter. Which type of wine is most likely to pair well with dessert? Dry, high acidity white wine, sweet wine with equal or greater sweetness than the dessert, full-bodied red wine with high tannins, sparkling wine with low sugar content. The correct answer is B, sweet wine with equal or greater sweetness than the dessert. What wine characteristic pairs well with fatty, oily foods? High acidity to cut through the fat, high sweetness to balance the richness, high tannins to enhance the texture, low alcohol for subtlety. The correct answer is A, high acidity to cut through the fat. Which type of wine pairs well with highly flavored foods like smoked meats or strong cheese? Light body wines with subtle flavors, wines with high acidity or robust flavors to match the intensity, wines with low tannins and low alcohol, sweet wines only. The correct answer is B, wines with high acidity or robust flavors to match intensity. How does umami food like mushrooms or soy sauce typically affect wine? It enhances wine's fruitiness and sweetness. It makes the wine taste more bitter and acidic. It reduces wine tannins. It improves wine's balance. The correct answer is B. This kind of food makes the wine taste more bitter and acidic. Which wine characteristic can help balance the heat from spicy food? High acidity, low alcohol and slight sweetness, high tannins, full-bodied and high alcohol. The correct answer is B, low alcohol and sweet wines. Let me know what interactions you enjoy the most. Wine people, thanks so much for taking the time to watch the video today. We talked about systematic approach to tasting for level 1. We talked about principles of food and wine pairing. The next video, probably you're gonna watch one of our mock exams for level 1 in wines, but you're definitely ready to take the WSET level 1 in wines online exam. Please let me know if you're still thirsty for more wine knowledge and what are you interested in. Today's reason why you could continue learning about wine is because you're confident and you can get even more confidence and joy from wine. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay thirsty and wise.